was a young troubadour, swinging promenade. I'll be an old troubadour when I'm gone. Here we go, sides. Well, now the sides promenade and go halfway, walking square through.
All right, here we go. Another Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight, I have a gentleman. He's in Oklahoma, but he is not from Oklahoma, and we'll tell you about that in just a minute. Tonight, I have Darryl Lipscomb. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Charlie. Good to be visiting with you.
It's good to talk to you, sir. It's been a little while. We've met once or twice, handful of times, but never really had a full conversation, so I'm really looking forward to this. So we started off, where are you right now?
We're in Edmond, Oklahoma. We moved up here a couple of years ago. We wanted to be closer to family, and we decided this would be a good place to be. Even though we are Texans, we just go in hibernation during the Texas OU.
Okay. So, born in Texas?
You bet.
Whereabouts?
In the Dallas area, not Dallas proper, but in there. I grew up on a farm. We were kind of south of Dallas a little bit.
Okay. I'm going to actually get to go up. CALLERLAB is at Grapevine this year.
Yeah,
so
well, we'll be there. I'll be there too.
Awesome.
And we'll get to visit there for sure.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to coming. I've flown through Dallas once. We connected out of Dallas going somewhere else. I think Wichita Falls. My son was in the Air Force and we had to go to Dallas, and then you take like an 8-seat plane to Wichita Falls, which I am not a fan of at all. And so yes, sir. I got a little bit of that. All right, sir. Well, you are a big-time square dance caller. When did you start dancing?
My parents started dancing in 1957.
Okay.
It was a big family, activity then. And my sister and I would go to the dances, and we would play outside until it got dark. Then we'd go inside and we'd horse around in there, and we'd get bored. And there was a bunch of us kids, and we'd finally square up in the back of the hall and doing our own thing. None of us had ever had lessons. And so C.O. Guest was the caller at that time.
Okay.
And C.O. announced they were getting ready to start lessons. And he specifically pointed to us kids in the back, and he said, and I want that square of kids in those classes. And so that would have been about 1958, I think.
Okay.
So, and have really pretty much, danced all my life. Been in the activity all my life.
That's fantastic. I was looking at some of your bio and things like that on the internet. So you started calling when you were 12?
Actually, 14.
14. Okay.
14.
Tell me about that. How did, and I ask everybody I talk to, because I started in a different way. I danced for 20 some odd years until I decided, hey, I didn't know I could ask somebody to teach me how to do it. And that's how it got started. What got you into the, hey, let me be on the microphone and be the caller? How'd that start?
Well, I'll tell you, we had a square of kids, and we got to the point to where this was before there was ever any teen clubs or exhibition groups or anything like that. And us kids would always dance together, and we had all our own little twirls and flourishes and all that. And we would always be invited. We were being invited to different functions to dance. And we were at a state festival one year, and I'm thinking it was for some reason I keep thinking it was Amarillo, but I wouldn't swear to that. And at the Texas State Festival on Saturday night after the dance, they always have an open mic, and the after party is an after party square dance. And so any callers there can sign up to call. And so us kids were dancing, and I don't know if you ever heard of Rocky Strickland or not, but Rocky and I kind of grew up together. He was a caller. Anyway, Rocky and I told Rocky, I was the oldest kid in the group. And I said, I've never called in my life, and I guarantee you I can call better than some of these guys.
Okay.
So Rocky and I, he kind of dared me to go sign up, and I dared him, and we both went up there and we signed up to call. And it was like a legal pad, and we were on the second page. So I'm thinking, oh, we're good. We'll never be called on to call. And people started leaving, and bigger in the world, they called us. And so we went up, and I kept thinking, well, he's going to chicken out. He thought I'd chicken out, and neither one of us were smart enough to. And so we both borrowed a record from one of the callers that we worked with, and it helped us. And got up there, we did a singing call. And the way I always told the story, I said, I held a cheat sheet in one hand, microphone in the other hand, knees knocking, and we did that singer, and we stunk. But we were still better than most of those guys.
Sure. Okay.
And so
I can believe that.
When we came off the stage, all the kids from our square come running over to us. Oh man, you guys are great. So, our heads started swelling. And so at that time we had 5 guys and 4 girls in our square. And so 3 of us guys decided that we would start calling for our group, simply because we had a hard time getting a caller, that could call for us and work with us. And so Rocky, myself, and I can't even remember the other guy's name. It's been so long. But anyway, we started calling for the group, and Rocky and I kind of went through the whole scene, through the teen clubs and the single clubs and all that. And that's how it all got started.
Wow, that is good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, coming up through that, you're working with the teens and all that. Did you have, were there any other mentors or anybody who kind of worked with you and talked to you about
the process?
Yeah,
I was really fortunate. We had, of course, CO Guest, was my parents' club caller, and they also belonged to a club that Ray Smith called for. So Ray Smith. Oh, now I got a good Ray Smith story for you. Rocky and I. Rocky's parents and my parents were really close friends. They ran around together to all the dances. And so Rocky and I were together a lot. And we would go to, Ray had a group that danced. I'll never forget it. It was in Oak Cliff, south of Dallas, at a call, I think it was called Kid Springs Recreation Center. Yeah. And Ray did a ton of calling there. And Rocky and I'd always be around, and we'd run around, and we'd sneak up behind the stage, and we would unplug Ray, the machine. And Ray'd be sitting there fidgeting with all the controls, trying to get something going. And he'd finally look around, and he'd see Rocky and I standing back there swinging the cord. And that's about the time that Rocky and I would knock the door off the hinges, getting out of that hall. And Ray, anytime I worked with Ray, or anytime I was around, and I did get to work with him a lot. I did a lot of the Smith Brothers Institutes back then. And Ray would always tell the story about how he ran me out of more square dance halls than anybody else would ever go to in their dance career. But yeah, Ray worked with us, CO. There was a caller in the Dallas area getting started, Walt McNeil. He was brand new, and he wanted someone to practice on. So he would work with our square as far as dancing. And then Rocky and I, pick up the microphone and start playing around with it, So had a lot of guys. I've been lucky. I've had a lot of people. Marshall Flippo really did a lot for me. When I was very young, my parents would go to Kirkwood Lodge. And they go to 1 week of square dancing. And then a little later in the summer, they go to a week of just a family week. And at the family weeks, Flip always had, every night he had dancing going on of some sort. And it would always be like a one-nighter intro to square dance. And after a while, Flippo started letting me do a lot of those for him. You go down there and you work them tonight. And I thought I was big time, working at Kirkwood Lodge with Marshall Flippo, and we were friends forever. And he's one guy that I truly admire, great friend.
Yes, I met him at a CALLERLAB just a couple of years ago, probably the year before he passed away. So, I mean, it was just hey, Howard, nice to meet you, sir, type of passing. So I'd never had the opportunity to talk to him. Wish I would have, because he had an effect on so many people. He was
always known as the caller's caller.
Okay.
That's how he was known, the caller's caller.
I was going to ask you. So that was that. I noticed in your bio that's Kirkwood Lodge is what he had. That was his thing. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Because I ask people, you've done traveling all over the world and everything. Are there any venues that stand out, floors, dancers, anything like that just kind of stick in your head as like places you really enjoyed?
Oh yeah. Well, obviously Kirkwood was one of my favorite places because every year when I go there, especially when I started working there, it was like an old homecoming. I mean, it was great. And the last year that I called there, my wife and I had decided that we were ready to start cutting back on traveling. And I thought, as much as I hate to, I guess, we're going to give up Kirkwood. So I gave them my notice and said that would be my last year. And I think at that time I was either doing 3 or 4 weeks there at Kirkwood. And as it turned out, after that, summer gig there at Kirkwood, the place sold. And then the guy that bought it was going to refurbish it, bring it back up to the standards of old. And he died, dropped dead right during the middle of the restoration. And then his family had decided, nope, we're not doing this. And they auctioned everything off, sold the land and everything. And so it was really, really sad, for me anyway, because it was just such a special place. But Kirkwood was always one of my favorite places. McLeod Dance Country up in McLeod, California. That was always a favorite. I called up there for, I think, 30 years. I called up there. And I loved it because you were right at the base of Mount Shasta. Okay. And we had the dance hall was fabulous. It was an old turn of the century burlesque hall that the railroad built for the lumber industry there. And they had gone in and refurbished the hall, brought it back up to normal. And like I said, it was just absolutely fantastic. And excuse me, you step outside. They had an apartment right over the dance hall for the caller. You just walk downstairs and go to work. And it was really, that was a favorite place. Gosh, so many favorite, it just, I could go on and on and on, but those are two of my favorite places. Pardon me. It was just, it was great. It was great,
What's so you've been all over the world. What's some of your overseas stories? Anything like that stand out to you?
Oh, let's see. Always had a great time overseas. I did a lot of gigs in England, Canada, Sweden, Denmark, even used to go to Saudi Arabia.
No.
Back before the war. What was it? Back before Iraq invaded Kuwait.
Okay.
And that was always interesting. That was that was an eye opener,
Sure, yeah.
It was really neat because you were calling in an American compound. It were mostly, oil workers, with the oil industry. And, they really took care of you. It was really neat. But when I first started going over there, they paid you in gifts. And the gifts could be, jewelry, silver, gold, what have you. It was really kind of neat. And our last time that we went to Denmark, while we were in Denmark, I met up with a lot of workers that I knew from Saudi back in those days.
Nice.
And I thought that was really cool, getting to visit with them. They said, yeah, we remember you. You used to come to Saudi Arabia. I said, yeah, I sure did, but it's really neat, and you make friends all over the world. Some countries that I would go to, they worked you so much, you really didn't have a chance to do much sightseeing or see anything. I mean, it just, gosh, sometimes you felt like the baton in a relay race.
Gotcha.
They'd just be passing you, you go in for a festival and then they'd pass you to another group and then they'd pass you to the next group, And when my wife and I got married, oh, we hadn't been married a couple of years maybe. And she says, how come you don't go overseas and call like a lot of these other guys do? And I said, I did it for years and I got tired of it. And she said, well, I'd like to go. And
Yeah.
I said, you got the calendar, you book them. So she booked several tours overseas. And the last time we was over there, it was in Denmark. And I think we had just done 2 weeks. And she comes over to me just before the weekends, the second weekend, and she says, you really don't want to come back and do this again next year, do you? And I said, not really. And she says, good.
Oh, wow. That's
So,
good.
it's kind of neat, but it was an experience, especially the customs in all the countries, that was really, you had to really get accustomed to a lot of that, but it was a great experience. I would take nothing for the experiences, that I had, in all those years traveling. And I'm glad it's over with.
I'm sure. Now, that's a lot of calling, and I haven't done weekends or anything like that yet, but when I have a 3-hour dance as opposed to 2, I'm just like searching for, how much more can I give?
Yeah.
How high a level do you call dancing wise?
Well, I called through C3B, and once we decided to cut back, right now I'm only doing through C2 and C3A, and I don't do much of either one of those, but enough just to kind of keep my fingers in the till.
Sure.
But the program in South Texas, I ran a program in South Texas for the snowbirds. We called them the Winter Texans, for 35 years. And down there, I called everything from beginners through 3B. And and it's talk about a lot of sessions. When I first started down there, I think I was doing something like 18 sessions a week.
Dang.
3 and 4 sessions.
That's a lot of calling.
3 and 4 sessions a day. And I really get tickled when Dana Shermer was, chairman of the secretary of CALLERLAB.
Yes, sir.
Every year, Dana called me and he said, well, you ready to renew your membership? And I said, oh, yeah. He says, now, how many dances do you call a year? And I said, Dana, I can't count that high, and he and I would laugh, and he'd say, maybe you should buy 2 or 3 memberships to cover enough of the dances.
Cover all that music. Great thing.
Because, if you really told someone how many dances, you did a year, and at the weekends, most all the weekends I did were 5-session weekends when I traveled. So, and some of them even 6 and 7. So, you add all those up in the course of a year, and it's mind boggling,
That's amazing.
But it was, it was nice. Very story that I used to laugh a lot about when we called in South Texas. You'd be so busy, you really didn't have time to sit down and push the checkers around and work up new material. So our joke was, anybody ask us, how much time do y'all spend, working on new material? We'd say, well, the dancers are our checkers. We experiment on them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That, they always get a big kick out of that.
Well, I saw another thing too. What is the world's largest beginners class?
That was in McAllen, Texas, part of the Rio Grande Valley, South Texas, Rio Grande Valley. And that was really something. The Chamber of Commerce in McAllen sponsored these beginner classes. And they did advertising through radio, TV, billboards, newspaper, any of the big RV shows or any kind of a big show. They advertised for us, and they provided they furnished the McAllen Civic Center to us for these lessons, and they were free lessons. And we would have back in the good old days, in the peak years, we would have anywhere from 75 to 90 plus squares in these classes. And people, it was mind-boggling, and it was Jerry Story, Jerry Haig, Bob Byer, Larry Letson, and myself. And we would run these classes, and then each one of us had our own beginner class that we would, promote to the dancers, and they could come and, and they could actually dance 5-6 times a week, learning, in beginners if they wanted to. And it was really a good deal. We did that for many, many years. But the one thing that we found out, and I've seen this happen since with associations that have tried this, that was a free Monday morning activity for them. They really weren't making any kind of a commitment.
Right.
And so the vast majority of those people, they never ever got out to another class, or even much less another dance. And so we realized at that time, if you're going to be successful, the dancers, the students, they need to make a commitment to the activity. And so we learned that. And but for many years, that was our claim to fame. McAllen, Texas, the world's largest beginner class. Now, I would have callers from California, from Arizona, call me and say, what the heck makes you guys think y'all are the square dance capital of the world? And I say, well, if you can top that many squares and beginners, you can have the claim.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that many, and I've been to several national conventions. Great.
Yeah. It was really something to see. I know Story and Larry Letson and I and Bob Byer and I, we've all talked about how fortunate we were to ride the crest of square dancing.
Sure.
We saw things in square dancing that people can't even comprehend this day and age. The groups that we called to, it was unbelievable. I had my winter program, like I said, I did a full winter program for 35 years down there. And the numbers were astronomical. Now, as time passed, we were just like everybody else. We watched the decline of square dancing, and it was really sad to see. But, I guess that's sort of the way it is with anything this day and age.
Yeah. And hopefully everything comes full circle like most things do. Maybe it comes back around. I would love to see it. Will we be around for that? Who knows?
Who knows? Flippo and I used to talk a lot about that, and Flip he felt that square dancing was going to have to die away and then be rediscovered. And he said, and then it would probably come back as big as it ever was. And I think he's probably right to a degree, because, I've seen that happen in communities where a particular community would be tremendous area for square dancing, and then all of a sudden it just die out. And then after a few years, it would be rediscovered, and here they'd hit the charts again, so you never knew.
Now now I haven't asked everybody. That's a very high level C3B. What is do you have a favorite level to call?
Oh yeah, when dancers or when anybody would ask me that, and let's face it, you're going to be at a dance and somebody's going to come and say, "What's your favorite level to call?" And I'd always look them right in the eye and say, "What level are we dancing tonight? This is my very favorite." And I always said, the unique thing about it is, you work with beginners, and to see the excitement in their face and in their eyes when they do a do-si-do correctly, I mean, that to me is as exciting as calling to a challenge dancer a really intricate sequence and they get it. I enjoy all the levels. I just did the Kansas some state dance forum this past weekend, and it was pretty much just mainstream with some plus, and I absolutely had a blast. Had a great time. I really enjoy all levels. I always kind of felt like I was probably teaching. I really enjoyed teaching. Let me put it that way. Okay. And that's what I like so much about running the winter program in South Texas, was we ran lessons at all different levels. Now, obviously, I couldn't run a class for every level, right. So we alternate mid-year. and I always had a beginner class, and I usually always had either a plus review or a plus class. And in the rest of the levels, I would alternate, maybe teach advanced one year and in the next year another level. I tried not to do the teaching so that say if I taught advanced one year, I certainly didn't want to teach C1 the next year, because I would get people wanting to come from that new advanced dancers into that. And so I'd always try to arrange it where they couldn't, just start level hopping.
Okay, gotcha.
But I enjoy them. To this day, I enjoy calling it all.
Now, I get the enjoyment of teaching and that part of it. Do you work with any callers? Do you work with caller schools? Do you do any teaching of the callers?
I do. I have several callers that I work with, and my whole theory with working with callers is it's my way of paying back the activity that's been so good to me through all the years. I don't charge anything with them. I just, if they're wanting help, I'm certainly more than willing to help them any way I can. And I find that, I enjoy that. I find it very rewarding. I did one couple of weeks ago here in Oklahoma, and we had callers, brand new callers, and we had callers who'd been calling for a long time. And I felt like, everybody there really enjoyed it, and that they felt like they left learning something new, And, but yeah, I do. I work with a lot of callers. I say a lot, several. I do caller schools. I am not an accredited caller coach with CALLERLAB. I just never, I don't know if it was just had the time to pursue it or,
right.
But what's really weird is I have booked many caller seminars because I was not a CALLERLAB coach. They wanted, and they would tell me right out front, we've had these guys, they're great, but we want to hear it from outside.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give you, I'll give you my perspective.
No, I agree. I try and do one or two actual caller schools, different sizes, because there's big ones out there, there's smaller ones. I try and do one or two a year, but I get just as much. I'm lucky in the regard that I do some traveling, and I consider I have a lot of mentors that work with me. So, give some advice. And so I get just as much if I go to somebody's dance and we spend 5 minutes talking about choreography as, when I go to some schools or something. Now if it's a week-long school, obviously you're going to get a lot. But, just 5 or 10 minutes with somebody who'll just mentor you and say, hey, this is the way I look at a square.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to do when I do a seminar is assign the caller, each caller, I want you to teach a particular call. Okay. And then we'll watch them teach it and then critique it. And I really feel like they get an awful lot out of that. I know that was one of the things that I enjoyed so much about South Texas at our big beginner class. I got to watch Jerry Haig, Jerry Story, Larry Letson, Bob Dyer. I got to watch these guys present calls from with their method. And I'm like, oh, wow, why did I not think of that? Yeah. And I really, so I've always felt that, teaching is so important in our activity, and anything you can do to enhance that. I'm big on keywords. One of the best CALLERLAB sessions I ever went to was Jerry Schatzer. It was, this was way back in the 70s, I think. 78, 79, maybe, I can't remember. And Jerry did a seminar on keywords. And I thought, God, that was probably one of the best sessions I've ever been to. And so a lot of the things that I do when I do a session, I will always try to incorporate that into it, the use of keywords, trigger a thought,
Gotcha. Now you're from Texas, born, and so let me ask you this: if it's square dancing, obviously you've heard way more than me, but square dance music is all over the place. What is your favorite genre, not square dance?
My favorite genre of music besides square dance?
Yes, sir.
Oh boy. Of course, I'm country at heart,
Okay.
but I'm an old time. I like rock and roll too, old time rock. I love that. I really have a hard time with what they call country music this day and age.
Yes,
Come
sir.
on, people, give me a break.
I see you've got your ESP shirt on. Tell me about some of the record labels you've recorded on and everything.
Oh, geez. Well, I've been with Elmer for a good bit. Elmer and I are terrific friends. I mean, that guy is he'd give you the shirt off his back. He and I are so close. It's unbelievable. But ESP, gosh, let me think here. Riverboat, I've done some stuff for. Square Tunes. I got real tickled. I Googled myself on Vic Cedar's site one time for singing calls, and I was like, "Holy cow! I forgot about those." Oh gosh, so many darn different labels. Prairie at one time. I did some stuff for CO. Unfortunately, some of the stuff I did for CO, he passed away before it ever got to be released. But gosh. Oh, global music. That was really I really enjoyed my stint with Doug Bennett at Global. That was some great music. And yeah, GMP. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed them all. And I've done a lot of guest spots. On different labels.
What's some of your favorite singing calls that you've done?
That I've recorded myself,
or just some of your favorite ones in general, or yours. I mean, sure, I'm sure okay. Yours are going to be your favorite too.
It's kind of funny. Here's the deal: when you record a singer, by the time you've got it worked out and recorded, to be honest with you, you're sort of tired of it.
Yep, I agree. Okay.
And I find myself not doing my singers all that much. Now, if it's something, that I've got in the can that we haven't released yet, I'm still playing with. Well, I like that. But oh gosh, one of my favorite tunes, I'm going to say for the last couple of years, is a tune from Solid Gold, and it's a whole lot of things to sing about. I love that. I always liked the original one that was cut, I think, on hi-hat. I can't remember. And then Solid Gold did such a good job on the music. And I love that song. I use it a lot. I use Kip Garvey just released one. Let's see, what do you call that thing? Sugar Pie Honey Bunch.
Yes.
Yep. I just did it for the first time at the Kansas dance. And I'm like, wow, that thing is great. And I had dancers and callers coming up and, asking me about it. Boy, through the years, for years and years, probably one of my theme song that I was always recognized by, and if I didn't do it at a dance, if I hadn't done it by the last tip, I knew about it. People were telling me, and that was the old Chaparral Rockin' and Rosalie's Boat. That was always one of my favorites. King of the Road that Chaparral did. They're just so neat. Good night. And ESP tunes, gosh, I sometimes feel like, maybe I do too much of our stuff, but we got some really good music and I really enjoy it,
Yeah. And I came along when, like I said, the crowds were starting to go down. So I didn't get to experience a lot of the gigantic crowds. I've seen a couple here and there, but the music in my mind has just taken off in the 10, 12 years I've been doing this with record labels and with all the producers that are coming out. And it's just phenomenal music, the way some of it sounds.
It is. And the re-recordings of some of the tunes is really good. We have redone old songs. And I always look at that as, if you can't do better than the original music, then why waste your time trying to? And I see a lot of that this day and age with different labels. And I'm like, why would you want to redo that song? The original is great, but it happens. talking square dance music, what's really interesting, back in the day, singing calls, oh my gosh, were so, you'd sell thousands and thousands of a singing call release. And and you didn't cut that many hoedowns, patter tunes. And I always look forward to the patter tunes coming out. Well, nowadays, what we see, the big sellers is the pattern music. It outsells the singers by far. And in fact, like with us, the patter songs, pretty much that's what finances our singing calls. And it's really interesting how it's all changed. When Kip revived Eureka, I was telling him that, well, Kip, has changed. I said, the singers are tremendously outsold by the pattern music nowadays. And I think he had a hard time believing me. But then after he'd been out there for a little while, he called me and said, man, you were right, But I love all the new pattern music this day and age, it's so much more modern and all really good stuff, Probably my favorite pattern tune right now is one we did, Rock, Paper, Scissors. That thing still sells like wildfire, It's a great song. But there's just so many, Royal, Rhythm, good Lord. Back in the day, Red Boot. Just so, and even going back farther than that, K-Locks, Chaparral. Great songs, great music. A lot of talent.
Yeah, talking about Red Boot, we talked earlier about Johnny Jones
Yep.
out of Georgia. Awesome guy, and that was the first person he was trying to explain the Red Boot Boys to me when I was first starting, and of course I was like, y'all actually had a group that did square. It made no sense to me, but it was huge when I got into looking into it. So
yeah, I have a picture that I will text you.
Okay.
It's of the Red Boot Boys. It was obviously Johnny, Mike Hoos, Don Williams, and I can't remember who's doing bass at that time, but I'll text you the picture. It's really a neat picture. They're in white.
That'd be great. I'd love to see that. It's great. I've met Mike. I've met Mike a few times in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So we've run up on each other a couple times. Good guy.
Yeah. I ran across that picture. I don't even know how I ended up with it, and I sent it to Penny Jones after Johnny had passed, and she was like, "Oh my God, I've never seen this." I had a lot of stuff from Johnny, pictures, and Johnny wrote some really unique articles back in the day, and and I sent her a lot of that stuff. But it's a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of memories.
That's good stuff. Well, now, when you're not square dance calling, because you travel for a while, you said you've cut that back a little bit. What do you like to do? Movies, TV, hang out at the house? What do you do for fun?
Well, I've always been big in motorcycles.
Okay.
Grew up on Harley Davidsons, and in fact, for years and years and years, people always kidded me, because in the summer months, when I get through with my winter program, I do my summer tours on the motorcycle. I'd tear out on that motorcycle and travel all over the United States on that thing. And when my wife and I first got married, I was still doing that. And she spent the first year was married riding on the back of my bike. And in the second year, she was riding her own. And so I pulled a little trailer with my bike, and we traveled all over the country with those things. That's a hobby that I've always enjoyed. But right now, what I'm doing a lot of is, I grew up on a farm, and you learn on a farm how to maintain and, well, I guess the best, overcome and adapt. If you break something, you learn how to fix it. If you need something and you can't buy it, you. And so I'm doing a lot of stuff. I have a shop right out beside our house. My wife has her sewing room. She calls it her sewing studio. If she hears me say room, she'll get on to. And she does that. I go out into my shop, and I like to do metal art, and I do a lot of lathe wood turning, pins, all kinds of things. I just enjoy that. Anything mechanical, I enjoy. I'm a gearhead. Elmer Sheffield is the gearhead, and I think that's one of the reasons Elmer and I always got along so well together, because he and I could get together and never once mention square dancing.
All right, very nice.
And hours and hours talking about, cars, motorcycles, things like that, So that's kind of that's me, and we both enjoy walking around our house, doing all she's a big gardener and I help her some with that. And it's, we're enjoying life. We figure we deserve it.
Okay, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Now we talked to you're going to be at CALLERLAB in Grapevine. So do you have any other, do you still do any weekends or anything that you have scheduled?
Oh yeah, I do. We kept some things. I still do. Steve Cotman and I did a weekend in Gatlinburg for years and years. And we ran into issues with the hotel. I don't know what the deal was. We'd sell it out every year at the weekend. And all of a sudden they decided they didn't need us. And so we just moved the weekend to Knoxville. And we do that one. I do that one every year. I still do. I do Pride, Maggie Valley. I do that. I do. I do 2 weekends. I do a Labor Day weekend, the old Chaparral weekend. We've reformatted it. I do that with for years it was Shoemake and Bauer and Tony and still do that one. Then we have I still do the Texas Advanced and Challenge Convention, and we do that in Paris, Texas. And I think this year will be our 43rd year for that. And I still do a little. I don't really want to travel like we used to. I say right now, what little traveling I'm doing is just kind of regional. I'll run up to Kansas, run down to Texas, and do things like that. But I just don't want to. I don't want to spend my whole life living out of a suitcase like I did.
Sure, I know. There comes a time you got to cut it back. I get that. That. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, sir, it's been about 45 minutes. I like to keep it right around there just for everybody who's watching. Darryl, it has been my pleasure. I want to do this again. You've got a lot more stories to tell. You've got so much about the traveling. I would love to sit down with you. Definitely want to do it at CALLERLAB. If we get a few minutes, I'd love to do that.
Sure. My wife is probably, I think she's sitting here, so she's listening to this over here. She's probably thinking, well, you hadn't told him about this, and you hadn't told him about that.
No. I definitely, there's a handful of callers out there. You're one of them. I need to touch base with again and get that and put together a couple of episodes with you just for stories alone. We were talking before about Tim Mariner and some other guys, all great dudes. And so we'll do that. And like I said, this is going to come out in about 3 weeks. I've got it set. And that'll be getting close to Grapevine, Texas. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
You bet. Yeah. I may seeing you too. It'll be great. I'm going to do a section there while I'm there for CALLERLAB.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly. I think it's for advanced dancing. I think Tim Crawford and I are going to do it, but and then I'm doing one of the Trails End dances for him. I guess on Sunday night. I guess.
And I completely forgot about you being at Pride. I'm going to try and make a point to come down there and see that because I can get up. I've done a couple of weekends at Pride or dances during the week.
Yeah,
sure. I didn't even realize it because when it says advanced or C, I don't even look at it because I can't see. Yeah.
Well, see, last year Tony wanted me to do a C1 teach week, and so we did. It was very successful. And and wanted me to do it again this year. And I said, Tony, these dancers, they're all now, they want to dance. And I said, they're all hitting me up. They just want a week of C1 dancing. And so he said, well, okay, let's do it. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do this year down there. But yeah, if you did a chance, come down and see us. That's an area that I really love. That was one of our favorite areas to ride motorcycles in.
Sure.
Do the Parkway and all. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's a lovely area. We vacation there quite a bit through that area, Cherokee and all that.
On one of my bucket list things is I have never been to a NASCAR race at Talladega, and I want to make that. I'm a big NASCAR fan, and I want to make that. Sometime.
All right.
But anyway, yeah,
really
I
good.
enjoyed listening with you. Yeah, we need to get
All right.
together.
Darryl, absolutely. It's my pleasure, sir. I'm glad we got to finally sit down and do this. And I look forward to see you in Grapevine.
You bet, Charlie. And hey, keep up the good work.
Absolutely, sir. We'll talk to you soon. You have a good night. All right.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Walking square through, all the way in, then you'll swing through again. Boy running a Ferris wheel, and now the center square through to 3. Swing and promenade, I'll be an old troubadour when I'm gone. Side space, grand square, still feel 25. Most of the time, I still raise a little Cain when the boys left Alabama and we talks and pretty women. Lord, I'm still right there with them, singing above the crowd and the noise. Four ladies chant over and back. I'll be an old troubadour when I'm gone. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Oxendine.
Charlie Petrie, y'all.
Thank y'all for letting me do that. I appreciate that.